land in Atlanta within the hour in an effort to bring back the more than 300 workers who were detained during an immigration raid at a Hyundai plant in Georgia a few days ago. Joining us now live from Seoul is NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer. Janice, good to see you. It appears, though, that the South Koreans won't actually be able to get on that flight, at least for now. Tell us why.
There is a lot of confusion. What we do know is that South Korea's foreign minister is meeting this morning with Secretary of State Rubio. What we don't know is the status of this charter flight. It took off from Korea as planned, is expected to land in Atlanta as planned. But a couple of hours ago, a spokesperson at the airport in Atlanta said by text message to NBC News that the charter flight has been canceled. And nobody knows what that means, whether there's going to be a delay in the expected departure time with some or all of these 300 Korean workers on board, or whether there's been some sort of a deal to maybe allow these workers to stay in the United States to finish their work, and therefore there's no need for this charter flight. There's also been a shift in who is willing to talk about the situation and the level that it's being discussed. So this no longer seems to be an immigration raid. This is more of a diplomatic situation that's being discussed at the highest levels, and the resolution is going to come from the White House. I spoke earlier today here in Seoul with James Kim. He's the chairman of the American Chamber of Commerce in Korea. He's a former executive with GM Korea, with Microsoft and Yahoo here. He works and deals with a lot of South Korean companies, and he says what he hopes is that businesses here and the public here will all soon look at this as some sort of blip. Here's what he said.
Do you see this having a chilling effect on Korean companies doing business with the U.S.?
I really don't. I think for the time being, there's a lot of noise surrounding the system. People are obviously concerned. There's a lot of uncertainty. But the minute we get the uncertainty clarified, I think you're going to see even more business between U.S. and Korea. Because now we're going to hopefully have the right visa structure that makes it easier for Korean companies to send their people to the U.S. And as I've said before, they're not going to the U.S. to take away American jobs. They're there to simply train their American counterparts and leave. Because the semiconductors and the electric battery business, there's just not that many skilled workers in the United States that know how that operates. And Korea is there because of that.
The longer that there's a delay, though, in repatriating these detained workers, the more anger is going to grow here. Already, there's this sense of shock and surprise that the U.S., South Korea's friend, its ally, and beneficiary of billions of dollars in South Korean investment, would put Korean workers into shackles, into chains, and line them up like criminals. The images have been playing on a loop on the news channels here, and it's been dominating the headlines in newspapers. Already there have been some protests, albeit small ones, close to the U.S. Embassy, where people are not only demanding dignity for these workers, but also a better system for them to get the visas to go to the U.S. to do the work that they've been hired to do, which is to build American factories for American workers. So there is a lot of clarity that still needs to come from this. And one professor I spoke to earlier today said there needs to be some optics, too, that when President Trump comes to South Korea next month, he should bring a very big gift basket.
Well, we were actually just saying that around the set before the block began. And I think it was Molly who said, when he goes, he better bring gifts. So if you could just...
Big ones.
Big ones. Janice, could you just put this in perspective? I don't know if... Obviously, a lot of Americans understand how important South Korea has been militarily as a bulwark against North Korea, but they don't understand South Korea may be the 10th, 11th largest economy in the world. They've got a GDP close to $20 trillion. The United States depends on them in so many different ways. Talk about how important South Korea is to the functioning of America's economy.
Well, South Korean businesses are investing more in the United States than any other country. So this is a situation where there's not only huge economic stakes, but also the diplomatic stakes. As you mentioned, this is a deep and long-running alliance, a security alliance. South Korea has been a partner to the U.S. in the region for decades, and that's probably why we're seeing such an emotional reaction here. And it is emotional. People not recognizing this relationship anymore. As far as businesses go, they want predictability. And the sort of raid that we saw at this facility, that was a celebrated facility. It was lauded by the Biden administration when it was announced. They're having their workers rounded up and treated like criminals is not the sort of predictability that South Korean businesses are looking for. So there are still risks, despite the sense of optimism that maybe the two sides have such a strong relationship that they can get over this. There still is going to be a chill, and a lot of South Korean businesses who are going to be thinking twice about the money they put into the United States.
NBC's Janice Mackey-Frayer, thank you very much for your reporting and insight. We appreciate it. That's
so talk about the concerns you've heard from South Korean business leaders.
Well, it's the collision of two Trump administration policies, right? Aggressive immigration enforcement and then using these trade deals to get countries to invest more in the United States. Now, are you more likely in South Korea or elsewhere to invest more in the United States if the 200 people that you've sent over to build the factory, literally, to train the American workers are rounded up and handcuffed?
Janice just said they're the top investor in the United States.
That's right. That's right. And this is what part of the trade policy is, to get more countries to send their companies here to build in the United States. At the same time, you have this very messy public image that is being broadcast here. It just these things are at cross purposes. What you hear from business leaders, overseas business leaders, is that the U.S. immigration system is a god-awful mess and that they need better visa pathways for skilled workers to get here. What you hear from MAGA, of course, and from many traditional Republicans as well, is that skilled worker visas take away American jobs, so it's not an easy sell on that end. It's a big mess, and this is front and center here.
There you go. Mark Caputo, Christine just said the MAGA perspective. Take us inside the White House. How are they viewing these immigration policies, these rough immigration policies that they're putting forth at a campaign promise? What's the level of anxiety about it? Perhaps, yes, straining international relations, but also impacting the economy here at home.
Well, I haven't heard them express a lot of concern about the economy. The question is are they just talking about sort of everything else except for the economy, or do they actually believe that things are better than a lot of reports and data suggest? As for the South Korea matter, it is a big deal. There is a meeting at the White House that's currently, I think it's currently happening, over this very matter. So we haven't gotten a readout of that yet. The reality is that the South Korean business relationship or trade relationship has been very strong, and Trump understands that. And so I think there is a little bit of concern over how this unfolded, and they're trying to fix it, and they're trying to do it sort of amicably and quietly as they can.
All right, White House reporter for Axios, Mark Caputo, and NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans. Thank you both very much for being on this morning. And still ahead, Downton Abbey is returning to the big screen this Friday, this time with the Crawley family having to embrace the change that comes